Most people are aware of the GoPro's capabilities as an action camera, but what a lot of people don't know is this camera is also a very capable camera for shooting great time lapses. In fact, it is my favorite camera for shooting time lapses. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why. Reason number one, this is my favorite camera for making time lapses, is the size. This camera is small enough to fit in the palm of the hand. It also can easily fit in a pocket. It's easy to carry around in a backpack. It's light, it's portable. It's got a really nice size. It fits in the hand and it weighs less than a pound. What I like about this camera is when I'm on a hike or some other adventure, if I see a great spot for a time lapse, I can just whip out the camera, whip out my shorty tripod here. I can hook it on, set up the tripod, and let it go for a couple hours. The shorty tripod is also very small and portable. Putting it here next to the GoPro, it's not much bigger than the camera itself. These two combined, great combination. I often find myself using this when I'm filming video as well. Reason number two, the GoPro is my favorite camera for shooting time lapses, is it's waterproof. Now the GoPro is rated to waterproof about 30 feet down in the water. The fact it's waterproof means it's also weatherproof. Here's what I mean by that. This camera, if you were to set it outside doing a time lapse and it downpours in the camera's gonna be fine. If this can be fully submerged in the ocean several meters down, a little bit of rain or even a lot of rain is not going to hurt this camera. In addition, you can have it out in a snowstorm. I've had this camera snowed on. I've had it buried in snow during a time lapse. This camera's gone through a couple severe thunderstorms. In fact, a recent one with 80-mile-per-hour winds swept through. I'll show you some samples of that. This camera stayed standing. The tripod stayed standing too. That was perhaps the most surprising part, as it was on a simple light tripod at the time. The camera captured an entire time lapse of that thunderstorm and was still standing when the thunderstorm had passed by. That thunderstorm ended up knocking out power for the area I was in for several days afterwards, and several trees that were 100 years old were snapped off and knocked to the ground. This camera, perfectly fine and functional afterwards. But it's nice being able to leave this camera overnight somewhere if I'm shooting a time lapse. I don't have to worry if it's gonna rain, if it's gonna thunderstorm, if there's gonna be a snowstorm. I know the camera's gonna be fine. Whereas with a lot of my other higher end cameras, I would not want to leave those out in the woods all night, and I would certainly not want them to get rained or snowed on. Most of those are not waterproof, so that is a big advantage of the GoPro. Reason number three, the GoPro is my favorite camera for time lapses, is the cost. Now what I'm holding here in my hand is the GoPro Hero 9, and this camera cost approximately $400. For $400, the quality of the time lapses on here makes it an excellent price to performance ratio. Now it's not going to get you the best time lapse in the world. There are plenty of cameras that will get better time lapses. In fact, there are cameras that cost several tens of thousands of dollars with the lens that will get you better time lapses than this. But the question is, do you always need the best? In other words, are the time lapses from this camera good enough? In most cases, I would say yes, they are. Unless you were doing a super high-end time lapse for someone where your specialty is time lapses alone, what the GoPro can get you for part of your project or your video is probably going to be more than good enough. Another advantage of the price on this is for $400, if somebody did carry it off when I left it somewhere doing a time lapse, or if a tornado comes through and carries my camera away, it was only $400. $400 is still a good bit of money, but it's better than my $2,000 or $3,000 camera or even higher end cameras getting destroyed. And finally, reason number four, the GoPro is my favorite camera for time lapses, is power consumption. This little camera will last about 2 hours on a single battery, which may not sound like a whole lot, but if you were to put a larger camera out there, generally those are only gonna last about an hour when you're doing a time lapse. Another advantage of this not using much power is I can hook up an external power pack, like this one right here. This one is a RAV Power, and I have used this before with the GoPro, and this thing on a full charge, I've been able to leave this GoPro more than 48 hours shooting a time lapse, and this still has some power left, and this is still going strong. In fact, I expect this would power the GoPro long enough that I would run out of memory card space before I would run out of power on here. I highly recommend this power pack, by the way. I'll put a link in the description below. I believe it cost me about $30, and I have used this to charge laptops, my iPhone, my GoPro. I've charged my laptop 2 or 3 times on one charge, and my iPhone I can do about 10 times. And the GoPro, I have not counted how many times because I probably would never need to charge it that many times on one adventure. When I'm shooting in a remote location, I definitely bring along my power pack. I can hook it up and it's good to go for the night. And also I can charge this while I'm driving in the car to make sure it has the full charge before I get to my location. So simply put, those are the 4 reasons why the GoPro is my favorite camera for shooting time lapses. Arguably, time lapses are one of the most underrated features of this camera. Daytime time lapses are great. I've done sunrises, sunsets. I've done nighttime lapses. I've done day to night and night to day. This camera is pretty capable with all of those, as long as you know what you're doing. I have several videos out there that show the best settings for this camera for time lapses. I will link to those at the end of this video, and I've also linked to those above throughout the video. If you have any questions or comments or would like to learn more about this great camera, please feel free to leave those below. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. Please hit that subscribe and bell notification button, and you'll be notified every time I publish a new video. Until we talk again, happy GoProing.